All right, everyone. I wanted to work with you guys today about the idea of creating interesting characters, and I see uh, a lot of character design on forums and different places where people are trying to show off their skills or that they're starting to learn things. And one of the areas that I think a lot of young artists or new artists, I should say, struggle with is with interesting character design. Now, what I've got here is just a very simple base for a exaggerated muscular character, and on this other side here, we've got a very uh, straightforward, I guess you could even say boring version of that character. Very simple clothing and all of this, very simple face, not a lot of detail. And I think that what we're looking for when we want to create a really truly interesting character design is you've got to have a few things that I guess stand out. Part of it can be hair or just interesting detail. A lot of it has to do with choosing interesting clothing and something that gives your character a sense of place, a sense of purpose, and uh, we'll dive into it. So the first thing I want to do, and I'm going to come down here on my new character or on my second version here. I want us to zoom in a little bit on this character. Having a hard time. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is to add some detail to the face. And a good way to do that and make an interesting character is to have details that are asymmetrical. Symmetry is important. Symmetry is a good thing. I'm not saying that it isn't. I like symmetry. A lot of times I draw with the symmetry layer on. But one of the things that I think can really take a character design up a notch and make them genuinely interesting is to have details that only apply to one side. So a good way to do that is something like a scar. A lot of the coolest characters you've ever seen have interesting scars. And the good thing about a scar is that scars tell a story. They give you the sense that this character has been through some things. It's lived, he or she, they have lived through something. And so a scar on one side is immediately going to make a character more interesting. Another thing that you can do to make a character more interesting is if you've got a very clean shaven character, you can always go in and create some degree of like 5 o'clock shadow on them. Go back and add a little bit of stubble. And I'm just putting this in here real quickly. It doesn't take a lot to give the impression of stubbly face, to give it that rugged look. And already we've got a character that visually is more interesting than his counterpart. Alright, and it didn't take a whole lot. It was just adding a little bit of facial hair and a scar to that face to make the characters a lot more interesting. Now, we'll come back over here to our second version of the character, our hopefully much improved version of the character. And another aspect of this is costuming. So in my first version of him, I gave him just a simple uh, t-shirt, jeans, and of course, there's nothing wrong with that. But we can do things that are a lot more interesting than that. All right, so I'm gonna give this guy. I got to figure out what his background would be, what his purpose would be. So if let's say he's military, and it would make sense since he's massive and looks like he's tough and knows his way around a fight. So if he's military, well, let's give him some military style clothing. All right, let's give him a vest. Let's give him some of those types of things. So let me just roughly throw in a vest for him. Doesn't have to be crazy detailed right now, because again, all we're doing right now is coming up with concepts. So I'm gonna rough this in, very rough. All right. All right. So already we got a little bit more interest in this character. Now let's add some new details. We'll add strap across his chest. One thing I will say when it comes to character design, and the 90s made pouches and things like that uh, just over the top and ridiculous. If you're going to add anything to a costume or to a character's design, it's always fine to do that. But keep in mind, functionality matters. I would say that especially when you're working with a female character, I know I'm working with a very masculine character right now, but one of the biggest things that I think uh, character design can go wrong with is with female characters. Uh, just to be honest, the whole male gaze thing of like, oh, we got to make them slutty, we got to show as much skin as possible, and then have them fighting in these ridiculous costumes that don't make sense. Uh, I think that the best example of good female design work that I've seen in a long time was in the more recent run of Batgirl with the sort of purple and yellow focused design that they gave her. That costume, it's cute, it's feminine, but it's also extremely functional looking. Like it looks like something you could actually fight crime in. And I love that they took the time to design something that not only looked like something you could actually wear in real life, but they made something that was functional and served an actual purpose. So kudos to whoever designed that particular suit. I'm right off the bat, I don't know who was responsible, but whoever they were, they killed that suit. It was perfect. It's okay to use pattern. Don't be afraid to use pattern, but always err on the side of caution. You don't want to over pattern things. You don't want things to get a bit too busy in your design. All right, already we can see a huge difference. This one character seems like he's much more ready for a fight. He has more story that's immediately communicated just by the design itself. I think that's an important thing to try to do, is to tell a story with your design. Those of you who have been around churches, and I don't know, I don't know how many of you that applies to, but you may have heard a statement before: share the gospel, and if necessary, use words. Uh, to be honest, I think that's kind of a dumb statement. I've never really cared for that statement. But when it comes to design and art, show, don't tell. Let the design be strong enough to communicate story without you having to spell everything out. If you can pull that off, if you can make it work, if you can make designs that tell a story so that you don't have to fill the page with so much text just to communicate a certain idea, that's always a good thing. It's always best in a visual medium to show instead of having to tell everything. Alright, so I'm going to add in sort of armored plating on his knees, like a shin guard type design. And to add one more piece of interest, I'm going to come on this other arm. I'm going to let that arm have a tattoo design. Set the opacity low. And you can see just from the little bit of work we've done in these few minutes just how drastically more interesting a character we've designed simply by taking into account the idea of costuming and asymmetry in design and functionality, purpose. Dude's a mercenary, he's jacked. Let's give him a design that seems like it would fit with his profession. Hope this is helpful to you. If this is something you enjoy and you feel like you need or would like more of, please go into the comment section and let me know. If you think I'm absolutely horrible, you can let me know that too. I don't really care, but you're welcome to tell me. Until then, this has been the Godfo Universe. Check out our podcast, which is available now on Spotify and on YouTube. Just look up Godfo Universe. It's pretty easy to find. Like, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Get on our mailing list. The first volume is coming out very soon of our first graphic novel of Apollyon 20XX. Live Not by Lies. And we hope to hear from you very soon.